since the last video at what Litas offers in the puzzle category that isn't just doing puzzles. And I discovered that it like has things sorted by theme and so on, so you could practice things you're bad at or that you've been having trouble with in a game. I've only done 29 puzzles, so it doesn't have a really great idea of what I'm good or bad at. It seems to think I'm insane at spotting forks, which I assume is just luck. And, the sample size is all small enough that this doesn't really mean anything. You can look at, like, my improvement areas and it says, oh, you only solve half of these kinds of puzzles. And my strength is like, wow, you solve a little more than half of these. So it's like, can't really tell that much, I think. But I thought I would start out with a couple themed puzzle things to work on what seems to have been making trouble for me in my games, maybe. Like, for example, advantage. It tells you that the goal of the puzzle is you are given a small edge here, try to make it a big one. Or, crushing would be your opponent made a huge mistake, try to capitalize. Which, I don't know, I missed some of those for sure, but I feel like more of my problems are in this range, between 2 and 6 points, not like above 6. So let's go look at this. Okay, yeah, opponent has just done this. And the most notable thing is that now this bishop is almost hanging. But not quite, because the knight's defending it, right? Well, we can take the knight and stop it from defending. We could take it with the knight or the pawn, but the pawn would be, I think, a bad play? I don't know. This pawn is like a danger sign to me. The queen and the bishop are converging on it, but they're blocked by the knight and the pawn. So I'm pretty sure that the right thing to do is to take this knight. And I don't immediately see the difference between which of these I use. And that's, like... In a puzzle, the answer is never... It doesn't really matter, right? The answer is always one of them is definitely better. And so I have to evaluate, like, what are the downsides of each of those? I guess the main advantage of taking with the pawn is that it comes with tempo against the queen, right? But she could move to, like, here, maybe, and defend the bishop. But then I still want a knight, right? What if I take with the knight? I'm piling up on the bishop. Oh, but my queen is hanging, you idiot. I see. So I need the tempo here. I need to take this way for tempo, so that they can't just take my queen. Or if they do, I don't really care. I take their queen. In either case, I come out ahead of knight. Okay. Cool. Good puzzle. And I think did an okay job of the goals I was looking for, right? It wasn't immediately obvious to me which of those two things to do, and that would make a big difference in a game. So now what's happened? They've captured my pawn. I noticed this spot is a checking square against the king, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about that. Right, the bishop or the knight could go there, but right now the white knight is defending. So that's not so great. This is also a way to check, and so is this, but I can't really make use of either of those at the moment. Taking this knight is obviously no good. I could take here. That seems like the obvious move, but it doesn't actually accomplish all that much that I can see. Just like we get to trade pieces, and then their bishop is out of danger. And I don't have anything cool to do with this check that I can see. Well, what if I check with the bishop? Then I still have the queen, like, kind of lining up along with it into the king side. But I think it's easy for them to deflect with c3. Are there any other technical weaknesses my opponent has? This square is kind of interesting. If it weren't so heavily defended and I could get a knight there, I would have a useful fork. This deflects one defender. Now it's only guarded by the queen. But I can't seem to make use of that in any kind of hurry. Castles? It attacks the knight, but doesn't seem to accomplish much, and my queen is hanging, so pretty horrible. I guess castling is a useful resource to have, even if you can't use it now. It comes with tempo against whatever piece is here. So for example, takes, castles is an attack against the bishop that develops my rook. The problem is I don't really see much advantage in having a rook here right at the moment. It's x-raying the queen, this is all great, but it doesn't do anything right now. Is there anything that, like, this knight was doing before it moved that I should be more alert to? I mean, it was here, it was guarding the queen. I don't think that matters very much. This square, this square. None of them seem very important to me. I don't know. I would just take the knight to resolve the attack against my queen. It's probably wrong. No, it's fine. But I still don't see a good follow-up. Like, yeah, they took with the bishop. Now what? Knight here comes with tempo against the bishop as well? Threatening this, kind of, but not really. Because I don't have the queen there to defend it yet. But suppose the bishop moves, then I can play queen here, and then I am threatening that. I don't think it's that great, though. Because, for example, knight here, pawn defends, let's say. Well, that's actually horrible. Oh! This was visible the whole time. I didn't see the whole point of this puzzle. Is this square? Is there something flashing down here? What is going on? These buttons are flashing? I don't know. Oh, because I'm looking in the past. Yeah. This square is attacking the piece here and checking the king. It's no good to me now because the bishop guards the knight, so I don't want to go here, check, take knight. I need to take the knight first. Yes, okay, I know. And then pick up the bishop. Got it. So that's the kind of opportunity that I should, like, get more used to recognizing, because it's super important to see those in a game instead of missing them. I'm white. Huh. Ah, this looks pretty good, I think. It checks the king, and simultaneously discovers a defender for this pawn so that the king can't take it. The rook could, except the king is in check. So knight here, king has to move, and it has to be here, here, or here. So he's no longer near the pawn. Here is no good, because then I can... Oh, no. I was thinking I could follow up with knight here, but that's not how knights move. So obviously I can just pick up the bishop. But if the king has gone here, he still has a grip on my pawn. And they could respond to me taking bishop with rook here. Rook takes. I guess I have a knight for a pawn, and that's an okay advantage. Is there something better? I don't know, I think this is pretty good. Alright, and they didn't even go here. I'm not sure what's wrong with that move. We'll look at it afterwards. So, good puzzle, but... what's wrong with this? It's obviously, according to Lichess, much worse. Ah, my rook is defended if it goes here. Now the king really has to run away, and I've gotten to improve my rook in the meantime. This is maybe a more dominant position. Okay. Let's do one more puzzle and then get into a game. Queen just took a pawn. I'm black. I notice we have good control over a bunch of diagonals heading towards the king. I'm not sure if that's something we can do anything with at the moment. This knight is obviously a focal point. We have many attackers and defenders. At the moment, defenders outnumber attackers. Sorry, Attackers outnumber defenders. So in principle, I could do something like bishop takes and come out ahead, right? But no, because queen, they respond with queen here, and I just break even. Maybe even worse, I'm not sure. Now my bishop is in a pin. I can't move away. I don't know, this doesn't seem very good. So instead I could do something like this. Rook takes, defending the bishop, and not creating any particular weaknesses that I can see. Then, if rook takes, I follow up with queen takes, keeping everything tied together and securing the minor piece win, I think. Hey! Okay, good puzzle, good thinking through. Okay. Let's get a game in. Okay, I need to stop messing up this dang opening. Let's, like, I don't know. Let's just do this. I noticed, like, my games involve way too little pawn development. That is a weakness that I have had in many of the games I have played. My pawns just sit there not doing anything. And they block in my other pieces. Okay. There's this again, which I've had trouble with in the past, but I think I'm okay with bishop here. I don't know. Really? Takes? What exactly is the reply? Takes? Doesn't really do anything, I don't think. I could recapture and we could trade queens or not. Like, I'm gonna lose a pawn with this trade, I guess. Takes? Because takes, and I end up down the pawn and down a tempo. So maybe I just don't recapture. I'll leave them this doubled pawn. And if they want to do this, that invites my bishop forward. I don't see any advantage to me taking here right now. So let's leave the tension. And I have this sick bishop here stopping them from castling as well, which, I don't know. They can deflect me like so. It's not a huge imposition, but I like it. Just develop a knight. They can't even break up my pawn structure, really. Yeah, let's just develop a knight, get ready to castle. I love my position. What's wrong with this? Ah, they threaten pawn push, forking these two pieces. But I don't mind doing that because my queen is here to defend. Or this even, keeping my back rank more secure. I'm so developed, it's disgusting. And I'm up material. This bishop, I would say, is my biggest weakness because he's so exposed. Call me crazy, but what about a queenside castle here? Because it gets my rook aiming right at the queen, which is a weakness the enemy will have to contend with. And the queen side doesn't look much weaker to me than the king side, really. I have a lot of pieces over here. Yeah. Let's go for it. Okay, threatening my bishop. I think I'd like to stay on this diagonal. Stay trained on the king, stop him castling, and also defend my own somewhat weak king. Now this knight is a danger spot. This pawn, too, is not so great. I don't know, I have the bishop guarding it. But this pawn is overloaded. He's got two things to defend, so there's some tactics that could arise here eventually that I need to address. Something that would be nice to do is pawn here, bishop here. I can't do that now because it drops the knight. And the opponent's going uncastled. Wait a minute. This lets me discover an attack by moving the bishop. I could go, for example, pick up this pawn for free. I'd have to move back. But is there something better? The other thing I could try would be like this, planning to pick that up. But the king can be over here to defend, and I don't really have a follow-up, so I don't think that's so great. Do I want this pawn? I don't know. I might prefer to save the tempo for something else. And getting my queen in here would be really nice. I really want to move my bishop. It also unblocks my queen from defending the knight, which would let me do this at some point. Which, as I said, I want to do. Yeah. Let's just go grab this pawn. And return here. They can kick me with this, but I don't think they're keen to do that, really. If they do, I don't mind returning here? Here? Here has a pretty good view of the back of Black's back rank still. I don't have any other follow-ups to this, right? What about like some crazy rook sack? King takes. Queen here. Yeah, there's not really follow-up. If nothing else, this works, for example. Okay, let's just back up. Here is okay. Oh, actually, here is good. I was worried because it means the knight can attack me, and it sort of gives my queen an extra responsibility. Oh, that's... really? I think I'll happily take out both of those knights in exchange for this rook. Wait, does that make any sense? No. I only get one knight for the rook. But then I can develop this as a threat after one trade. My bishop is great, and I'm not excited to trade him right now. But I wonder if there's something going on. Takes, takes. Then there's this bishop and rook working together here. And the queen could get in, but just not quite in time, I think. I'm just going to leave this tension hanging around and get another rook involved. No, this rook is needed here, and not doing that much here. Well, X-raying the king is pretty cool. But I'm worried about my king safety. I don't really have a flight square if black can develop something, white can develop something here. What about this? This knight is sort of tied down to defending the other knight, I think. Yeah, that should be fun. He can take, and it's just a trade, but then I have exciting possibilities in here. Right, my queen gets more advanced. I have overwhelming attack on this knight. So I don't think this is actually a real threat. I would play bishop here first, and then recapture. Whoa! I can discover another attack here if I want. Check. And then scoop up the knight this way, or maybe something even better if they make another mistake. This bishop is a machine. Look at him go. Just vacuuming up the pieces. Oh, that was a mistake. I should have maybe taken here first, actually. Yeah, this king is in severe danger. I probably have a checkmating attack that I missed. So let's say I do this, right? Check. Where can the king go? My bishops are controlling all this. My queen controls these squares. So the only legal king moves are here and here? In either case, I can follow up with a queen to here. And then I think he's dead. Not he, my opponent is dead. Well, okay, rook blocks would also be... No, it would be horrible. Because I just queen here, take it, and then press the issue further. Wait, why did I not think king here was a possibility? I don't know. I don't think it's hugely important that I missed it. I got to get some of these rooks off the board, I think. My main issue is, like, what if I just get checkmated all of a sudden? Wait a minute. This is checkmate. right? Check. Can't go here, here. Bishop is protecting the queen here. Can't go there. Yeah. Cool. I think that was another mostly well-played game. I'm sure some blunders and so on. Oh, it's already requested my computer analysis. I'm confused about what's happening. Why is it only showing up to move 3? There's no request computer analysis button, but there's also no, like, computer analysis. Okay, well, let's just go look at my previous games. This one should show up. Oh, right, games show up here. This one, right? No. Is Lichess, like, undergoing, I don't know, not some kind of maintenance, but, like, not downtime, but some, like, okay, here we go. Now this game is finished. Weird. I wondered if they might just be doing, like, nightly maintenance where things take longer or something. I don't know. Anyway, give me the analysis board. I have a computer analysis. Here we go. We did it! 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders. I'm very pleased with myself. And my opponent only made 1 inaccuracy and 1 blunder, but I capitalized immediately, I guess. I don't know. I mean, so it really does say no significant mistakes. So what were White's mistakes? It says pawn here was bad. Yeah, that was a blunder. Because the bishop's in trouble. Pawn here seems fine. Yeah. That's it. That was the only mistake it thinks White made, and then I killed him for it. Oh, let me gloat a little while longer, will you? Let's just okay. We'll just leave, learn from my mistakes, and we'll just step through the game. Oh, there's a button for that, right? Beginning of game, end of game. Yeah, okay. So do. It doesn't like this so much. It thinks you should develop the knight. I feel like every time I do that, I end up with this pawn unable to move, and this pawn feels stupid. Like, what am I supposed to do after this? Suppose that. Fine. Just keep developing pieces. Hello? Oh, there's best moves down here. Yeah. Just do a bunch of developing. Leave your pawns unadvanced, and then eventually, once you've got this bishop secured outside the pawn chain, you lock him up and unleash this bishop. Nice. Okay. But I didn't. I did this. And it doesn't like that either, because... Why exactly? I'm not sure. It doesn't want me to trade bishops. I guess it ruins my kingside, and all I get out of it is a trade. Yeah, that's fair. I was so scared about this pawn. I've had so many games end badly where this pawn gets beaten up. So I put a bishop in front of it instead. But right now there is no coordinated attack on this square, and as soon as I move... I don't know. I can always do this later if an attack arises, I guess. Okay, fine. So I played this, and they didn't notice the threat. And I took it. It doesn't like that either. And it says, yeah, don't retake. Just develop a knight. I'm not really sure why. Like, what's wrong with retaking? It allows the queen trade, which I knew. Ah, and then they get to pick up another pawn. and my bishop is embarrassed, and so I have material, but my tempo is very bad. Okay. I forget what I was like thinking. I didn't see any advantage in this take here. And I think I saw that I would end up losing a pawn? No. I saw that I had already lost a pawn, and if I recapture, it's not like I'm getting it back. Okay. So we just ignore that. It would prefer that I take with the queen, but they both seem very, very close. Wait, what? So here we are at minus 5.7. And it says taking with bishop. Ah, if you let it think a little while longer, it says, oh yeah, you're right, you should take with the bishop. Great. Because I didn't really want to queen trade and lose this. Well, I wouldn't be losing this pawn. It would be. But it was like, White kept initiating trades that let me develop while staying even on material. In addition, of course, to blundering the bishop, which was the big mistake. And so the whole game just developed very naturally for me. Right? Here it's like, oh, sure, I'd love to develop my knight. Thank you. Oh, really? I'd love to develop my queen. Thank you. Oh, look, there's this X-ray on the queen. I'd love it. Thank you. This is dropping 2 points. Why? Knight here? You got me on that one. What? Why not just this? Queen here threatens the rook, who can't escape, maybe, is the problem? Knight here takes... Yep, takes. And I'm up a million. I see. So that's a tough one. I understand the principles that would let me spot it, but it's a really tough one for me to spot. What I have to recognize is that this pawn is tied down to this diagonal, because this pawn without it is weak. Therefore, I don't have to worry about this capture. But even given that, I'm not sure, like, now that I can see this isn't dangerous, I don't see why it's great. I guess it's threatening this once I can do something about the queen. Kick her away or something. Does that even... I can't do that now because that's why they put the knight there. Suppose they don't put the knight there. They put it over here. Can I do this? Yeah, I can. They're basically saying, see you later, queen. Okay, well, I'm glad that I saw some of the potential upside there. Anyway, that wasn't what really happened. After the castle, queen here, I just retreated with my bishop to keep it trained, as I said, on this diagonal. And I believe the king immediately gave up on castling and walked right into a tactic. Bishop here. Oh. I didn't notice that. So we're attacking the king on this diagonal, this file, no matter how we move the bishop. But bishop here gives us this as well, constraining the king's space further. We also have this bishop here. So the king is already facing a lot of threats and has to move either here, which, I don't know, doesn't seem that great, or go right back to where he was last move, which also seems horrible. Like, I don't know, what... Oh, or of course you can block with a knight. Yeah, he just goes back. Wow. And now we activate another rook. And it's all just falling apart. It's kind of funny, because I'm up, what? Like, in material, I'm up one minor piece and down a pawn. But I have this immense advantage because of how well positioned my pieces are. And this time, unlike the previous games where I was like, why am I up 8? Material's even. This time I'm like, yeah, plus 17, that seems fair. There's just so much staring the enemy king down everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So I should have done that, but instead I was greedy and I picked up a pawn. And then returned here, not realizing it would have been better to just go here. And I told you, I was like, I don't know really that I care that much about this pawn, but I didn't see how cool a spot for a bishop this was. I was considering here, which is substantially worse, but still immensely winning. And I like this knight here. I spotted it and realized it was actually a good idea. It's the kind of thing that is not always obvious to me and that I've missed in other games, right? This knight here looks sort of fine, but the knight's overloaded to defending here as well. And then we take the in-betweener. That's actually the best move? Oh, no. Oh, it's the only move! I didn't notice that. Okay. By the way, what the hell, like, I know the evaluation goes up and down, but how can it be, oh, it's made in 12, fine, and then the king makes the only legal move, and now it's like, I'm not sure, is it made? Like, how does that happen? Shouldn't whatever search is happening here be exactly the search that happened here, but deeper, and find a win? I don't understand how this happens. Evaluation going up and down, I get it. But if you find checkmate, like, that's the best evaluation. Anyway, I picked up the pawn, and now, is this the only legal move? I don't think so. This is also good, right? Well, not good, but it's legal. Because we have all this covered. I guess this is legal. But obviously I just follow up with rook here and nothing is gained. Okay, now it's made in 8. So yeah, oh no, really? It says this was right, that I shouldn't have taken this check. Why? Check. Oh, my bishop is hanging. Yeah, that was why I moved it. I was like, yeah, the pawn won't be able to take because the king's in check, but the king can take, so that's why I should do it this way. I see. And they failed to defend the pawn that is where I got my attack in. And then I found the fastest checkmate. I'm just very pleased with this game. Let's go back and do a couple puzzles. I don't want to play another game in the remaining time. Deflection. Apparently I'm awful. Who knows? Puzzle themes. Let's keep doing more of those advantage. King just meant here. This bishop is guarding that, so I could do something like this maybe someday. But the problem is there's a knight here. So it doesn't seem to quite work. What's the deal? Also, I'm in huge danger over here. If I ever make a non-check move, the opponent has mate in 2. Right? For example, this was a move I was considering to like put some extra pressure on this pawn so that then I can do the rook and bishop thing. But it clearly doesn't work because checkmate. Wait a minute, what about check? Knight takes, check, take the rook. What is that accomplishing? I'm losing a rook, but gaining a bishop and a rook and a pawn, and relieving the pressure against my king. That seems pretty good. I could take this with check. I don't think that's really as good as getting rid of this rook. Right, because if I take this with check, I can't actually get back to over here, which is where I need to be to not lose. So let's just get rid of the rook. Yeah, good puzzle. Right, they just took my rook. Obvious natural reaction is retake, but there must be something better, some in-betweener maybe. What are the threats against me here? Well, my knight's in danger. I see. So we trade off the knight. I was like, yeah, knight goes here, this checks the king, but what does it accomplish, is what I thought at first. The answer is, it gets some value for my knight, who is doomed to die anyway. Right? If I just, like, recapture, I'm getting a queen, but losing a knight. If I go here, check, rook takes, take. Now I'm getting a queen and a bishop, but losing a knight. So that must be a good idea. Cool, good puzzle once again. They're attacking here suddenly. They've lost control of this, for what that's worth. That's interesting. I don't see any big tactical positions right now. Pawn here? I guess that's interesting, because the bishop is under a lot of pressure then, right? He kind of has to go up here to avoid being captured. The queen is defending, so it's not like the bishop can just take the pawn. I could check here first. And then presumably queen takes, more or less forced. Then here? That still forces bishop here. And I really want some follow-up that gets my queen into this area somehow, right? Like this. But the problem is there's still this bishop here. If I had a queen here trying to checkmate the king, the bishop would be happy to sacrifice itself for the queen. What about something quiet, like bishop here? That actually seems kind of cool. One obvious play is like, okay, rook takes, but we just recapture. No. The problem is, the advantage of bishop here is that it's x-raying the queen. And then when I move the pawn attacking the bishop, we discover an attack on the queen. She moves and we get the bishop. That would be the idea, right? But just doing this right away doesn't work, because takes, and now I don't have a guard. Oh, also, this discovered attack sucks because there's nothing protecting the bishop on that square. Once I move the pawn, the queen just goes, okay, thanks. Well, okay, so pawn here doesn't actually force the bishop to move, now that I look at it. Because pawn here, rook takes. Now I have to go here, and suddenly this pawn is unsupported and gets snipped, right? So this file deserves attention. Take, pawn push, bishop here. But so what? Right? All right, let's also look at like what was going on a minute ago. This rook has given up control of this pawn. Does that matter somehow? I could play queen here. Discover, or not discover, just attacking this pawn. But rook here, and I have to come back. And I haven't really accomplished anything except wasting a move. There's no attacks going on this side, I'm fairly sure. Well, I found a lot of things it can't be, it seems like. This bishop is the problem. What can I do about this bishop? I feel like this has to be an okay start. It restricts the queen's mobility a little bit. It allows me to do this, which inconveniences the bishop for sure. But I just don't see a follow-up. Oh. What if I tried to get a bishop here somehow after moving this pawn? Then it sees into this area on a dark square, and I could attack the king that way once everyone's tied up here and here. So takes, push, duck. Queen here. Bishop here. Checkmate. Now, I skipped like 2 moves for white, and maybe they have something cool to do about that. But each of my moves onto this, or my one move onto this file, I'm protected by this pawn. And so there's never really a chance for the queen to sweep in and like checkmate me, or even check me, honestly. I think that's a good idea. Nope. All right, what was it? Pawn push immediately. So I thought that in response to pawn push, we would have this. Ah, I have an in-betweener to take the bishop before recapturing. I see. Okay, that's a good puzzle for sure. Excuse me, there's a pawn, like, in my house? Director? Or they call them directors, right, in chess? Arbiter, I guess? You would call the arbiter. The director is a more administrative position. I think. I don't know. In bridge, they're called directors. In Magic, they're the judge. I don't know. pit boss in blackjack, but players would not normally call for a pit boss. It's the dealer's job. So obviously there's like a knight hanging, but boop, you dead. So that's not so hot. What about just this? Ah, pushing the king away from the bishop, right? Or else forcing the bishop to go here. Actually, wait, that works, doesn't it, for the opponent? Here, here. Now I can't actually take because check. Ah, but now that the bishop is pinned, it's away from the pawn, and I take the pawn. And then I try to do something with this pin against the bishop and king, right? That seems good. Yeah, and I just take the bishop. Good puzzle. Okay, but I'm not going to click thumbs up. I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.